has come to our family. You remember our venerable house? Opulent and imperial, gazing proudly from its stoic perch above the moor. I lived all my years in that ancient, rumor-shadowed manor.
So my second completed game for 2026 is The Darkest Dungeon. This is a indie roguelike title where you essentially crawl through a series of dungeons in a turn-based combat fashion, but it has some interesting elements to it where your party can experience permadeath, and you have an interesting strategy around this concept of stress. It's a brutal game, but it's very addictive, and the loop kept me coming back. For the visuals, this is a well-designed and beautifully crafted side-scrolling indie game. There is great kind of illustrative style art there. There's some pretty dark themes. Overall, this is a really beautiful game to look at. I like the way that the side-scrolling characters move, the attack patterns, and even the dark kind of monsters, almost like a dystopian kind of Lovecraftian vibe, I think.
The light, the promise of safety.
Sound and music, this is pretty dark in nature. You hear kind of elements of music within, but there is this one part that I really love, which was there's a narrator that comes along and kind of comments. It's a little repetitive, but he has some really interesting commentary as you're kind of navigating through these dungeons, and that part of it I really kind of enjoyed, and I really looked forward to hearing a few of these things over and over as I kind of was adventuring through these various dungeons.
Decimated.
Controls. This is probably one of the weaker points. I played this game on Nintendo Switch, and whilst it ran well, performed well, the control scheme was really odd. Some of the ways that you had to navigate the map and navigate your party and move the different kind of characters around, it took some getting used to. Definitely the control scheme on Switch was not a positive for this game, and I think really kind of held back the experience a little bit. But like anything, you get used to it the more that you play. User interface, so much like the control scheme, I think UI and control scheme go hand in hand. I mean, the UI in this is rather complicated. There's a small amount of inventory management that you need to do within dungeons and making sure that you've got enough room to take the things on. Before you begin each dungeon run, you've got to take a certain amount of items with you, kind of buy them from a shop. And the navigation of this sort of stuff is a little odd. Sometimes understanding what buttons to bring up what UI elements were confusing. So it was okay, again, something you learn about, but from a control and UI perspective, not a strong point when playing on Nintendo Switch, at least. From an immersion point of view, this is a side-scrolling indie dungeon crawler with a party-based system. So, you know, is there an element of kind of getting lost in this game? Yes, I mean, I think it's super well crafted. I think the narration kind of helps bring you into the game. I did really like the art style and that created immersion, but it's this kind of gameplay loop that really kind of keeps you coming back. So is there a level of immersion there? Yes, but I mean, this is the type of game that you can pick up, put down, just play for a little bit. It's not really that kind of game that you get sucked in for many, many hours at a time, or at least not for me. Story. So story here, guys, is pretty basic. It's really just navigating through the darkest dungeon and kind of getting to these pinnacle dungeons in there. There is a town hub that you kind of visit and go through, but ultimately, you know, the story is fairly vague. You fight a series of kind of boss monsters in these different dungeons, and you kind of build your team out. Each one of them might have a little bit of a backstory, but a real light-on kind of story in most regards for this particular title. Innovation and technical, so there was no bugs that I experienced when I was playing this game. In terms of like general kind of technical innovation, you know, it's nothing groundbreaking. It is a side-scrolling party-based system. You know, it's turn-based combat. it's stable, it ran well on Switch, it's not graphically impressive, so there's no real kind of serious processing power needed, and for that reason I think it's a technically sound product ultimately.
The light, the promise of safety.
Gameplay mechanics. So this is probably where this game really shines. It has a lot of depth around how you have to manage your party and manage your stress within the party. Each time you encounter a fight, you not only have to worry about the damage you're taking, but the stress that your characters experience. And then if they reach a certain stress threshold, you kind of get this situation where they can either receive sort of negative buffs, debuffs, or if you're lucky, they might actually get a positive buff. And these kind of stack and they build up over time, and then as you kind of navigate through more and more of the dungeon, you find that it becomes more challenging depending on the buffs and debuffs that your character has. Throw into the mix this kind of concept of permadeath, and this is a brutal game. You can build up your characters up to the highest level, level 6, which takes a long time and a lot of grinding, only to have them wiped out, never to be returned, and then you have to start rebuilding up other characters. There is a huge array of different classes, which I really like, and they're all quite unique. You do end up finding like the best combos of the different types of characters to come together, but it's really that kind of ongoing grind, the tension that's constantly built around the stress management, around the health management, and just trying to get through the harder and harder dungeons until ultimately you get to the darkest dungeon and the hardest ones that are there. Is it fun? So ultimately, this is a really fun game. It is a brutal, sadistic game that you've got to be happy to experience the pain. It's a little bit like a Souls-like in the respect that, be prepared to die a lot. The permadeath makes it even more brutal, and it can be super frustrating with the RNG because you might just get a few bad rolls and lose a couple of high-level characters, and that can really kind of set you back. But that loop and that satisfying feeling of beating something and kind of coming back made all the difference for me, and I really, really love that. I wanted to rage quit more than once, but I managed to hold it together and come back and come back and come back to actually get through those 3 darkest dungeons.
The flopping fish-like things abhor the warding sigils. Let us claim this place anew.